The architecture of our solar system is not fixed, you know. It only appears that way from the limited perspective of a human lifetime, a brief moment against the deep cosmic timescale. We operate under the assumption of stability, the ground beneath our feet, the sky above our heads, constants in an otherwise chaotic universe. This perception is a fragile illusion, maintained by vast distances and slow orbital dances. The system is in perpetual flux, gravitational nudges, ancient trajectories realigning the pieces without warning, turning clockwork into irreversible change. This perceived stability is vulnerability, not safety. A single unforeseen event from the cold, dark expanse between the planets can shatter that illusion completely. The consequence is immediate, a tangible reset of the world, starting the moment we finally see what was hidden. Once a massive object is on a terminal trajectory with only weeks left, the outcome stops being probability. It becomes an unavoidable fact. The interconnected global system will cease to function. Its end is a cascade of failures, a chain reaction dismantling civilization layer by layer. It begins quietly in the silicon hearts of global networks and the sterile control rooms managing critical infrastructure. The initial impact is informational, a wave of data that confirms the inevitable. That knowledge, spreading at light speed, triggers collapses long before any kinetic energy hits. Sometimes the most devastating weapon is a single piece of undeniable information. The final state isn't total annihilation, but a fractured, fundamentally altered world that still functions. Rules that govern biology, climate, economics are rewritten in hours. The planet and humanity endure, but the civilization of technology, trade, and trust becomes a relic. The primary consequence is forced, brutal adaptation to a harsher reality, a world permanently scarred and reconfigured by the encounter. The first system to buckle is not physical, but financial. The global economic network built on trust evaporates instantaneously. Immediately, the world's intricate supply chains fracture. These logistical networks, the circulatory system moving food, fuel, and medicine, are optimized for efficiency, not resilience. The energy grid follows, triggering cascading blackouts that become permanent. This is the impact before the impact. Our solar system is a cosmic shooting gallery, filled with millions of asteroids and comets. While most reside in stable orbits, the gravitational pull of planets like Jupiter can send them on new trajectories that cross Earth's path. These are near-Earth objects, or NEOs. Astronomers have cataloged over 36,000, a constant feature of our cosmic neighborhood. A subset are classified as potentially hazardous, requiring continuous monitoring. Despite our efforts, our ability to see near-Earth objects is surprisingly limited. Most ground-based telescopes detect asteroids by seeing reflected sunlight, but this method has critical weaknesses. It's nearly impossible to spot asteroids approaching from the direction of the sun, lost in the intense solar glare. Many asteroids are also as dark as coal, making them incredibly faint. While new observatories like the Vera C. Rubin will help, the true game-changer is the NEO Surveyor Space Telescope. But its launch isn't until 2028, leaving us in a period of acknowledged vulnerability. What was once fantasy is now a global strategic priority. International bodies like the IAWN and SEMPAG coordinate a planetary defense, turning theory into actionable policy. In 2022, NASA's DART mission proved we can change an asteroid's path by crashing a spacecraft into it. Now ESA's Hera mission is en route to study the impact, refining this technique for the future. But all methods depend on one critical resource: time. A 1-kilometer asteroid crosses a critical threshold from a regional disaster to a global cataclysm. The impact would release unimaginable energy, triggering a supersonic blast wave and continent-spanning firestorms. But the most significant consequence is the atmospheric dust veil. Pulverized rock and soot blasted into the stratosphere would block sunlight for years. This triggers a severe impact winter, causing a collapse of the global food chain and threatening civilization itself. The final warning arrives not as a broadcast, but as a sterile update from the International Asteroid Warning Network. The object's classification on the Torino scale is upgraded. The probability of impact is no longer a percentage. It is a fact. The information floods secure networks, spreading virally through academic forums and social media. Official sources remain silent, paralyzed. For those in the impact zone, a desperate calculus begins. Roads become impassable arteries of gridlock. The fabric of society unravels with the quiet realization that there is nowhere to go, and not enough time to get there. As the asteroid closes the final 1,000,000 kilometers, it crosses the point of no return. Now visible to the naked eye, it silences all skepticism, transforming the threat into a tangible reality. World leaders make their final addresses, not calls to action, but eulogies for the world that was. Continuity of government protocols are activated, whisking officials to safety while populations are left to face the consequences. Power grids are intentionally shut down. Mostly, there is waiting. The 1-kilometer asteroid strikes at 20 kilometers per second, releasing energy equivalent to 60 million megatons of TNT. First, a blinding flash of light, a thermal pulse radiating outward. For hundreds of kilometers, the heat is instantaneous and unsurvivable, turning sand into glass. Simultaneously, a seismic wave rips the ground apart, an earthquake registering above 10 on the Richter scale. Structures are obliterated. Finally, the blast wave. A wall of compressed air moving at supersonic speeds, demolishing everything in its path. The impact throws billions of tons of molten rock into space. Blasted on ballistic trajectories, this ejecta re-enters the atmosphere hundreds or thousands of kilometers away, creating a lethal, inescapable rain of fire. The combined thermal radiation heats the surface to oven-like temperatures, and the world below begins to burn. The result is a firestorm of a scale unseen in human history. It releases a massive plume of soot and ash, a thick veil that begins to enshroud the globe, initiating the impact winter. The continental firestorms are not the final act, but the engine for the next global transformation. Immense quantities of soot are blasted into the stratosphere. Within a month, a dark veil encircles the globe, reducing the sun to a faint, ghostly disk. This stratospheric haze triggers an impact winter. Global temperatures plummet, summer turns to winter overnight. This long twilight becomes the planet's grim new reality. The immediate consequence of the long twilight is the catastrophic failure of global agriculture. With photosynthesis halted, crops wither and die worldwide. The annual harvest is erased. The world's food supply becomes a finite resource, limited to what was already stored in silos and warehouses. Global trade ceases. Food becomes a fiercely guarded local resource, making starvation immediate for import-dependent regions. Livestock, dependent on grain, also die off. A one-time dividend of meat before the food chain collapses completely. In the wake of the impact winter, the intricate technological systems that define the 21st century undergo rapid decay. It is not the impact that destroys them, but the loss of energy and the human specialists needed to maintain them. The global energy grid collapses, triggering a cascade of failures. Communication networks go dark in the Great Severing. Transportation grinds to a halt as fuel becomes a hoarded relic. Society is thrown back to a pre-industrial state, a world filled with the ghosts of a more advanced civilization, a landscape of inert, useless marvels. The collapse of national governments and global institutions forces humanity to reorganize into smaller, more resilient social units. The nation-state, reliant on mass communication, complex logistics, and a monopoly on force, proves too brittle. Society fractures into localized enclaves, fortified towns, agricultural communes, nomadic bands, isolated survivalist strongholds. Each group makes its own social contract, rules born of necessity. The organizing principle, pragmatic survival, not ideology. Value is redefined. Currency stocks digital assets, worthless. New wealth, clean water, preserved food, ammunition, antibiotics, fuel. Skills become capital. A doctor, a mechanic, a farmer, engineers, medics, food producers. More valuable than CEOs or bankers. Meritocratic hierarchy, contribution equals status. Brutal, but effective. conflict becomes endemic. Resources are finite, competition fierce. Early years, intense, localized violence over food fuel medicine. Over time, a tense equilibrium emerges. Enclaves build defended perimeters and distrust outsiders. Trade is armed barter, trust is scarce, yet cooperation survives. Communities band together to defend themselves, pool resources and share skills. New governance forms, town councils direct democracy. They organize defense water purification, cold weather greenhouses. These pockets of cooperation sow seeds of future civilization. The new social contract is a patchwork of competition and collaboration, violence and altruism, stripped to essentials. The long-term outcome is not a world of fire, but one of profound silence and cold. After years, the sun returns to a transformed planet. Its light reveals a world remade. Ice sheets cover vast new territories, and coastlines have been redrawn. Humanity endures in small, resilient enclaves, societies built on salvaged knowledge, focused on survival. The climate stabilizes into a cooler equilibrium. Life, with its tenacious persistence, begins to reclaim the sterilized landscapes. The world has been reset. The primary lesson etched into the consciousness of the survivors is one of humility. The asteroid served as a brutal, cosmic correction to our hubris. From the ashes, new governance models emerge, smaller, localized, and built on resilience. Astronomy, once an abstract pursuit, becomes the most sacred of sciences, an essential act of survival. The sky is watched with a vigilant, multi-generational fervor. Planetary defense is no longer a government program. It is a cultural imperative, a promise to never again be caught unaware. Centuries after the impact, humanity stands at a crossroads. The path back to a global civilization is not guaranteed. The easily accessible resources are gone. One future is a permanent agrarian equilibrium, a low-tech existence as curators of a lost world. Another path is a slow, deliberate rebuilding, guided by hard-won lessons. Its prime directive: develop a planetary defense system. The choice will determine Earth's trajectory for millennia. The future is never guaranteed. What scenario should we explore next? Share your ideas below. You've been watching Ifverse, where imagination meets possibility. See you in our next reality.